Behind the camera lens is Christopher Lenz, who's husband to the first grandchild of Walter J. Schweitzer. I'm the first born and only daughter of Walter J. Schweitzer. In the other room is Irma, the first and only wife of Walter J. Schweitzer, and now I have the pleasure of introducing Walter Joseph Schweitzer. Hi, Dad.
I've just been gagged.
Oh, well, we've been asked to record your memories of the past, and I may not know to ask the right questions, but you know all the right answers. Okay? And we're going to start at the very beginning. Like you were born on December 19th, 1918.
1918.
Mm-hmm. And that would mean that you were not 20 years old when you enlisted.
No, it's about right. 19.
Well, let's see.
I said I was probably about 18 years old.
Wow. And you enlisted.
That I remember, that was taken just before I signed up.
Oh, you were jumping before you signed up.
Yeah.
And what you signed up was with the 107th Regiment Horse Cavalry of the National Guard.
Right.
Say that again.
Yeah.
The 107th Regiment Horse Cavalry of the National Guard,
Okay.
which was located here in Cincinnati,
Reading and
Esmond
Avenue.
Avenue. And when you signed up, there were 7 men, and when you graduated, there were 2 standing.
What a, yeah.
Yeah.
No, we want to find
It was Don Flowers, your
Don
dad.
Flowers.
Yeah. Don Flowers, and you were the only ones to graduate and receive your spurs.
That's right. That is right.
So the training must have been difficult.
The training, but when you look at this, you will agree that Steve, where in the hell are you? Here it is. Sergeant Stevens, John Stevens.
He was your commanding officer?
No, he was the top sergeant. He's the guy who told you what to do, and it's a good idea to do it.
So were you trained in the military as well as your horse training?
Yes, oh yes.
And we can sit down, Dad. Why did you join up? You weren't drafted.
Because my love of horses, and I had a feel about horses, that they liked me.
Yeah?
Yeah, I had got along very well with the horses, and there was Mount Healthy stables.
Mm-hmm. You would go there when you were a teenager?
And I would pay to go. And that's when Sabin Robbins Paper Company sponsored me to a large degree. That was Sabin Robbins Jr. And he got wind that I rode horses and could ride horses. So he said, from now on, you take care of my horse.
Ah.
And his name was, what the hell was
I
his
don't know. Well, what does that mean that you received your spurs? Were they actual spurs?
Well, yes.
Yes. And then,
See, I had no spurs on there,
uh-huh,
but he does have.
okay. And then you went on to Troop K?
Troop K.
And you were then trained by Jimmy Kane, is that right?
Well, now, don't forget that Stevens.
Stevens. What, he was,
He taught me to be a military man.
okay.
And I listened to his words because they were all right and they were all made sense.
And then Jimmy Kane,
Jimmy Kane,
tell me about him.
K-A-N-E.
Mm-hmm. And that's
Jimmy
significant.
Mhm.
So,
Because
who was he?
he was a former jockey in, what were the coastal places of a horse? Like the probably the lovable old nitwits from one of them they just buried.
You're beyond me right now. But
Ted
was-
Kennedy.
Oh, out in the Hyannisport?
Hyannisport.
Oh,
And that would have been, well, one relief off and did relief.
well, he was a trainer,
Yes, he was.
and he trained you how to train horses?
Yes, he did that out there. He did some fantastic things with me. A horse, well, ordinarily won't jump something. If it's a shadow of a doubt in his mind that he can do it, he won't do it. But when Jimmy talks to you and then Jimmy starts talking to the horse, and that this chair here becomes the jumper, the jump. And you put the horse in a gallop, 25 feet back that way, go right straight at it, and he was giving you instructions as you progress, so that you go right straight, right smack at the center of that chair, and you would then clear the jump. And he would do it.
And you were riding Kenny. The horse was named Kenny?
No, yeah, but not right then and there.
Well, what's interesting is that you were in Troop K, so all the horses in that troop, their first name began with a K.
Oh, but they were all named before I got there.
Uh-huh. And you actually rode in the Cincinnati Charity Horse Show?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And you played polo
Yes.
locally?
Well, now that's in here.
Okay, well,
Yeah, here.
yeah, there it
And a
is.
funny thing, Wally Schweitzer.
Not spelled correctly.
Huh?
It wasn't spelled correctly.
it was
No.
not. But I was well, Hershey, at the
Mhm.
jewelers in Cincinnati.
Mhm.
Dick Hershey was the man, but he was a good horseman. And Harry Bell, Charles Undercopper, good horsemen. And then as we go up to the next plateau, there's Wally Schweitzer.
Yeah. But we know who you are.
Yeah.
Now you played some games
Oh,
that
yeah.
actually helped in your training.
Well, oh, yeah. Yes, they would.
Besides polo, you played a game called Cos?
Cavcast,
Oh,
K-A-V-K-A-S, Cavcast.
and that was like basketball?
Basketball,
But you actually tried to dehorse your opponent?
huh?
Did you try to dehorse your opponent?
No, D-horse, yes,
Yes.
indeed. You bet.
Pretty rough game.
Very rough game. When you go down, resign yourself to the fact that you're going to hit the dirt.
Ooh.
Most of that dirt is horse manure.
Oh,
But, and that was inside the West Riding Hall.
It was pretty soft.
soft.
'Cause
Yeah,
I fell in it
she
once.
fell in it too.
A horse threw me in it.
And you did something called guide-on drills?
Guidon.
What were those?
Well, travel on a straight line, 4 horses turn to the right, four more horses now turn to the left.
Uh-huh.
And it was all trickery.
And you did figure eights? You did figure eights?
Oh, yes.
And like serpentine?
Serpentines primarily.
Uh-huh. So you really knew how to handle your horse.
Already because of Jimmy Kane. Jimmy said, "You learn from the horse. Don't go out there with the idea that you're going to manhandle that horse and treat him the way you want him to treat you. Well, the way you want to treat him is the way you have to treat him. Kind, gentle,
Uh,
and don't you rough up the horse. And you know what? And he made it clear to me that anytime you start roughing up a horse, you're finished with that horse. And he never let me forget that for a moment.
mm.
And I loved every horse, and we had good heavens. Here's a lovable, very lovable horse. I loved him. Steve said I could ride his horse for
Oh.
one thing. You don't get in the habit of riding that horse.
Why?
That's his horse. His mine.
And he liked his horse.
That's right.
Well, how did the horses come to you? You were assigned a horse?
Yeah. Well,
Is that how they matched you up?
you attach yourself to the horse.
Oh, you approached the horse.
Yeah.
Oh. So everything was not fun and games. You actually had to go out on tactical
Oh,
maneuvers. So one of the first places you went to was Camp McCoy
In Wisconsin.
in Wisconsin. And by this time, you were beginning to take your military career seriously because Europe was in conflict.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. So your horses then were becoming war horses.
Mm-hmm. They were.
So
Well, hey, we were firing the revolver.
yeah, tell about that. You were like a sharpshooter off of horseback.
Oh, yes. I was pretty damn good.
Tell about how you would maneuver on your horse.
Well, I maneuver on the horse. I didn't have to maneuver.
Well, like lay back and shoot.
Oh, well, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the course. Start off here. Well, let's start off here. And you go down here, and then you make a turn here, and suddenly you had to shoot 7 rounds from your pistol and hit a target, and you got a hit for each hit that you hit.
And then you'd have to reload
Oh yeah.
on horseback.
Oh yes, you betcha.
Wow. While you're still moving. To the next target.
On course, the next target.
Mm-hmm. And you had to be careful not to shoot another horseman.
But one trick we tried, I think, was trying to shoot a major. Green.
You tried to shoot him. And you missed.
Thank the Lord. Roy Green.
Uh-oh, maybe you shouldn't say his name out loud.
See, now
So-
this picture here, that down in Fort Knox,
Oh, you trained there too,
yeah.
and,
And that's, as you ever had, but a lot of my training was right down there. It was hard to get training. You do it, Schweitzer, do it right.
but they didn't tell you how?
Yes, they would tell you how.
Oh, okay.
That's where Stevens came in, John Stevens.
So it wasn't until March the 5th, 1941, you remember that date, when you were inducted in the federal service.
Inducted into the federal service.
And then it was that month that you loaded up your horses on a train,
Mhm.
and then you headed to Camp Forest, Tullahoma, Tennessee.
Yeah, okay, you got Tullahoma in there.
And then your Troop K became Troop C.
Right. And there was no more Troop K. That was dissolved,
Uh-huh.
and it became Troop C. So here it was A, B, C, D. Troop A, I'll call it Troop B, because I can swear to that, but B. Troop B was B. I'm a bastard, I'm a bastard, I'm a bastard till I die, but I'd rather be a bastard than a trooper in Troop C.
Oh,
So,
you probably sang something back to them, huh?
oh, yeah.
I haven't heard you sing in a while, Dad. Okay, so then you received 30 remounts,
Oh, yeah.
and some of them weren't trained?
We're not trained.
Mm-hmm.
None of them were trained.
No, so you had to do that.
Yes, and Stevens again got into the picture and said, well, Schweitzer, you can do that.
Uh-huh.
And I guess he coerced me.
So how many horses did you train?
At that time, I had a hand in every one of the 30 horses.
Hmm.
And I'd get on the horse and think, what the hell am I doing down here? I'm on the ground.
Uh-oh.
And that horse dumped me.
Now what about the other men in the troop?
They
Were they horsemen?
No, not really. Not good horsemen.
No.
Too many of them were good boys. They don't like to get their hands dirty, and there's a lot of them.
Uh-oh.
And I
So
think
you
that-
were training horse and man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there was one horse, I'll show you the picture of him. This guy,
Oh, yes.
yeah, tell about that horse and what he did.
Well, that horse, he was amongst one of the 30 that came in
And his name began with a C.
with the C.
Yeah, what was his name?
Crash.
And you named him Crash because,
He could not, anytime he had a rider on his back, he wanted him off. Best way to run into something, crash into the side of a building.
wow,
And he would do that very efficiently.
uh-huh.
And he never did throw me. It's just a funny thing. But when I would call it a throw job, but I had to ride the horse, but I couldn't. He would let me stay on his back.
Mm-hmm.
He would put his head down between his legs, his front legs.
Ooh.
And he'd clawing like that. And you didn't have, well, there was nothing to hang on to except your legs on around his belly.
And you called him Pig-Eyed?
Pig eyes. Yeah.
Why?
Because his eyes look like pig eyes.
A wild look.
Yeah,
Mhm.
a wild pig. That was the inference.
Other than he not being trainable, why did he finally, or how did he finally meet his demise?
And that,
Do you remember?
yeah, I do.
Okay, he was in a stable, and,
Well, no.
okay.
We don't want to spoil that in between. Here is a tree, and here is a tree. I would tie my horse up, crash,
Crash.
and tie him to this tree, and tie him to this tree, and let him do all the tugging he wanted to do. We had him, and he got his come-uppance. But finally, he did succeed in breaking one of the, what did he break? Some of his harness.
Wow. To try to get loose.
Mm-hmm. And he succeeded to some degree.
Well, you were telling that he actually killed the stable sergeant.
Yeah,
What happened there?
there's a picture of the stable sergeant,
Oh.
who was a good friend of John Stevens.
Oh.
Uh,
And he was with Troop B.
Yeah. Well, some fool who went to the cavalry school said, anytime you think that horse is gonna kick you or somebody, you grab a hold of his tail and push that tail down and pull and run his hind leg and sort of knot him up a little bit.
But you'd have to get behind the horse to do
To
that.
do that.
Yeah?
And he did that. That's what he did.
Mm-hmm.
But the horse is a little bit ahead of the game, so he started kicking a little bit, and finally he broke loose and kicked the horse.
Kick the sergeant.
Yeah, stable sergeant. Yeah. Now here's a guy. That's the most important man in the cavalry. The stable sergeant. He's anytime you have a horse who is a problem or has a problem, he's the guy you want to talk to about that. But with him, Crash, who's already demonstrated that he is not a very cooperative animal.
And so this sergeant pulls his tail and he kicks him in the chest
Oh, yeah.
and actually kills him.
Oh, yeah, but right here in his chest, the hoof marks were there.
So then he was laid to rest, the horse.
Laid to rest.
Yeah. Oh. And there's a picture of you sitting on him while he's laying on the ground.
Yeah, I had something to do with trying to resurrect him, tie him up and get him up on his feet.
Mm.
But for a while there, he was a pretty good horse to get on and gallop. He could gallop pretty good. He had his gaits organized so he could 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. And I thought we had him pretty well whipped, but such was not the case.
So no two horses are alike.
No two horses are
Mm.
alike. No, there's a Crash as opposed to Big Cane. Big Cane was a kitten. A real-
Now, when did you get Big Cane? When did he come into your life?
About they didn't send us all of the horses they should have from Montana, and so we got a couple more. One of them was a big chestnut, and I saw that I like that horse. I got to take that horse. By this time, months had gone by, and I established myself with Stevens as a horse lover, and he can do most anything with a horse now that he couldn't do before. said, I've got to have that horse.
Is he talking loud enough?
Huh?
You're okay, Dad.
Are you talking loud enough?
So Big Cane,
Big King, yeah.
and you actually named him after Jimmy Cane?
After, yeah, because Jimmy Kane gave me all of the hints and the do's and don'ts about the horse. So the horse's name was Kane.
Cleverly, you didn't name him Kane because you had to change to a C, so it's Cain.
Uh-huh.
And he was big because he was big?
Oh, he was big, yes. See, a big horse. Yes. Well,
Well, we've got lots of pictures, Dad. Just tell us about him.
here, see, here is Kenny horse. You know, he's about 16'2" hands high.
Mhm.
That's from the ground up, straight up,
16'2",
16'2",
and Cane was what?
16'3". And he was manageable right off the bat.
And what did he do that the other horses didn't do? What was his personality like?
His personality was, he said, told me he loved to jump.
And when you put him in the corral,
Put him in a corral, turn him loose, and he'd buck. He'd like this, like nobody on his back.
mm-hmm,
And here's the corral. And he's going for the buck, and then he straightened himself out and got in a good gait. Got down to the end of the welfare stop. Now, the hell he will, he's gonna keep right on going. He's either gonna go through that fence or the corral or whatever.
so he would do what?
Jump over the
Jump
fence.
the fence.
And I'd have to go chasing.
They'd say, Walt, your horse has
Yeah.
done it again.
Walk your horse is down there.
Just grazing in the grass.
And he was doing juice. You know a lot about that horse already.
Well, you told me a lot about him because you surely loved him.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So then you went down to Louisiana. Is that right?
Yes.
And you said it was swampy.
Swampy
Yeah.
and a lot of snakes, alligators, and pigs, wild pigs.
And then you had your horses.
Yeah.
How agreeable were they to that environment?
A horse, just would instinctively throw away a horse shoe at him.
You mean kick him?
He'd kick out.
Oh.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
He didn't, the horse didn't have any love for the pigs because they could draw blood on a horse's leg.
Yeah.
Because he'd bite him.
The pig would bite the horse.
Uh-huh. And I said, he ain't gonna bite that horse.
Mm.
I'll kill him.
Wow.
But I didn't have any great love for that horse, that who would, only a very dull-minded person would harm a horse like Big King. And I said, he's never gonna suffer from pain.
Ah. So
He didn't.
when you were in Louisiana,
That was Tullahoma.
okay, well,
No, wait, that's fine, because this blends in with the
I wanted to ask you about training with the Army and the Air Corps
yeah.
when you were in Louisiana.
Uh-huh.
I don't know where that picture is. But that's the first time that you saw the Air Cobra.
Era Cobra.
Yeah, there's a picture of
There it
it.
is.
Mm-hmm.
P-39 Bell Era Cobra.
So you had your horses marching is, you were in a
We would
column?
just go, we had a road which was about as wide as this table. We had to go along that road to get to where we wanted to go, and then get back on some good solid terra firma.
And this plane would just swoop down over you?
He didn't swoop down, he was already down
Wow, close.
about 500 feet from the ground. And he was the fastest airplane we had at that time. The Japs hadn't hit Pearl Harbor yet.
Mm-hmm.
But this plane here was discovered at that time.
You made some remark to a friend that if that's what's in the battle now, you surely win.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now Ray Sipe was my, I was a sergeant and he was the
Uh-huh.
corporal.
Okay. Then after you left Louisiana, you went back to South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
There.
Well, I'm kind of following what you have in your book here.
Toccoa. It stands out in my mind, Toccoa, because they had a very serious and fatal flood in the city of Toccoa, right in the northern border of Georgia.
Oh, in Georgia.
Georgia. Mhm.
Well, you mentioned in your memoirs that by the time you got back to South Carolina, your horses were way out of sorts and you were going to exercise them, but all of a sudden they got really wild.
That was a dark spot on a sergeant, the stable sergeant on Troop K, which happened to be, I got a picture of him in there.
Oh, you better not mention his name then. But you can talk about Jack Myers.
Yeah.
What was he doing?
Sleeping in his hammock. He was sound asleep, and all of a sudden the horse came roaring down and jumps
Jumping over him.
Yeah.
Well, the horses were pretty wild then.
Oh, yeah, they
Yeah.
were
You didn't have
wild.
control over them. But you said that South Carolina was a good spot to be jumping because of all the rolling hills.
Yeah, rolling hills and
Mm-hmm.
good ground. See, and this is Carolina Hills there. I don't know where that was. But,
So you traveled around quite a bit.
that-
Tell me about the Broad River event.
oh, that's it.
Where was that? Where is Broad River?
Broad River
Is that South Carolina too?
it's South Carolina now.
So you were crossing the river. Or you can look at this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Right here, I put this in writing about the,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess you read that in there.
Well, tell us about it.
Well, the pack horse, the first 30 remounts we got, it was a real good pack horse
Mm-hmm.
to carry the machine guns and ammunition. And
And you were trying to get from one side to the other.
Yeah, we're taking a whole regiment across the river, swim across,
And the river was flowing.
the river was flowing.
So what happened?
Well, it kept on flowing,
Yeah?
and
And the horse?
the horse fell down. And I loved the horse, and I hated to see a horse hurt. So I got off my horse when that horse fell down. He was trying to get out.
Well, he was underwater then, wasn't he?
Well, for him to be underwater, that just means his head is underwater, and then he's dead then, almost.
Mm-hmm.
But we managed to bring him alive.
And you had your pocket knife with you?
Had my pocket knife with me.
You still have your pocket knife?
No.
You still have your pocket knife? That's not the same one.
Oh, no, it's not the same one, but it's a replica of that knife.
Uh-huh. So you had to cut the equipment off of the horse
Yeah.
to save its life.
The girth. Girth or what other?
The cinch?
What is that? Trying to keep his head out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
The cinch. But see, that was the thing about this wide, but it was cloth. And when it
Oh,
got
it was
wet,
cloth. So-
when it got wet, it contracted. And I was afraid that thing tightens up too much. It's
Oh,
gonna kill
yeah. Uh-huh.
that horse anyway. So I thought, well, let's take care of the horse. Cut the damn cinch off.
Which meant that, what was he carrying?
Hmm?
What was he carrying on his back?
He-
Was it a machine gun?
Machine gun, yeah, and the machine gun and ammunition.
So you saved the horse's life, but what happened to that equipment?
It's still down in the Broad River. Now that is something.
Well, I wonder who finds it. Won't they have a surprise?
You know, the funny thing now, our veteran take care of the sick and ill horses, and he was pleased that myself and Tom Hannon worked with that horse, keep his head down, and get him up on his feet.
That was Captain Sailor.
Captain Sailor.
Mhm. It says, "We were never questioned about the gun, nor were we ever congratulated for saving a good pack horse."
And that's right. And nobody ever said, "Hey, nice going, fella. You idiot, you just..."
Right.
That went down the drain.
I liked what you said about horses. You traveled the horses quite a bit from state to state and referred to them as passengers who are also weary, tired, and hungry. So you did treat your horse the way you treated yourself.
Tried to, yeah.
Tried to.
And I despised the trooper who would mistreat the horse. And at that time, I could fight pretty doggone efficiently. And it says, I'd deck him with a left hook.
Wow. If he mistreated his horse.
Yeah,
Not all men love their horses as much as you did.
no, they did. I don't think so.
So,
Most of them did, let's put it that way. There were exceptions.
Tell us about when you were on Big Cane on December the 7th, 1941, and Whitey Peters came up to you and told you Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor.
Do you
It
remember?
was Sunday morning. Louis Handel, my good buddy, now he wouldn't take a chance of damaging his body for a horse. Horse wasn't worth it, but he wouldn't, knowingly he wouldn't hurt a horse. But we resurrected that horse, and it was night of Big Cane. I really don't know how he survived that dunking then, because I wasn't.
Are you talking about Broad River?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I did.
Now, I want you to tell us about when Whitey Peters came up to you and talked about Pearl Harbor. That's the first time you learned that our country was at war.
Yeah.
You were on Big Cane then,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and it was a Sunday.
Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Just got back from church.
Mm-hmm. A peaceful Sunday morning.
Yeah. And I took Big Cane back to. Bear in mind now, we're getting them closer to their home down in Tullahoma, and I want to get him settled down too.
Mm-hmm.
But he did settle down. He had a good disposition.
Were you surprised when you heard about the
Oh.
attack on Pearl Harbor?
Yeah, I was too naive to think that that airplane, that P-39, that airplane demonstrated to me that, hey, don't mess with me. I got a P-39.
But they were messed with.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you knew that something was going to change, that you were going to be moving, and you had to prepare to leave there. And eventually you found out you were going to Fort Ord.
Mm-hmm.
So did you board the horses then on a train?
On the train. Yeah.
And the men traveled by train as well.
Yes, they did.
And you had 3 stops on the way. Let's see, I have one in
Maybe
Little Rock, Arkansas.
Yeah, that was a rat race.
And you went to a stockyard there?
Yeah, and I was tired. I
Well,
went
sure.
swimming. I went swimming and all of this stuff in the river, and I was just about and physically at the end of my rope. I didn't have much left in my body.
Yeah. Nor the horses. And then you stopped in Julesburg, Colorado, Sparks, Nevada. Then you crossed the Sierra Mountains.
Yeah.
And finally made it into to Fort Ord.
Fort Ord.
So you left on your birthday, which was December the 19th, and arrived there on Christmas.
And ride. Yeah.
Was it actually Christmas Day?
It was actually Christmas Day.
Wow. And the horses by that time,
Don't say Merry Christmas to me, fella.
no, you said they were biting each other's tails?
Oh, they were. Yeah, and
Whoa.
tearing them out. Pulling. I
So
never
they were
heard of
pretty
that.
miserable.
I could never find anybody who, I think I must have talked to, who's my buddy? Who was my buddy?
I don't know.
Well, he's around here someplace, but anyway.
So you had the horses there at Fort Ord. What was your mission?
To seek out any Japanese that had landed and destroy them. And I had a 30 caliber rifle, and that's a pretty potent gun.
Hmm.
As a matter of fact, I got one in there almost. And I thought that the horse might be a little bit more upset.
So you said you traveled from Fort Ord to the coastline, Pacific coastline, in 10 portages, which carried 8 horsemen who traveled in twos for 25-mile durations.
No, wait, see that?
So you and a buddy would travel on horseback down the coastline for 25 miles.
Mhm.
How long did you do this?
Weeks,
Weeks.
yes. Mhm. And that was the idea. And we have to look at it. Here is, they're like Destin, that city. Do you remember it? It's a good beach
Mm-hmm.
and dry, good fishing, and most anybody would love that portion.
But you were taking your mission seriously.
Yeah,
Our country was under attack.
getting the hell knocked out of it.
Yeah, so,
No, we weren't getting the hell knocked out of us. Of course, by this time, this is Monday, and they already did their damage to our Air Force.
in Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor.
But you thought that they would be coming to the States.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Now this here, the body of water was right here,
Mm-hmm.
and how can I describe that? But
Like a bay.
yeah, it's sort of like a bay. And
I don't know this story.
I don't know, where did I leave off?
I don't know. You actually shot from a horse? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
That's the rifle. Because we knew that the Japs at that time were firing some heavyweight stuff, like we had a 437 millimeter. That's what we were using to fire back at them. And some of them, it exploded, and some of them did not. But those guys, our cavalry then had were towed. We towed that 37 millimeter weapon wherever we went.
Oh, you towed it by horseback?
Yeah. Mhm. And I was kind of hopeful that we'd knock off a couple of, but I know one of the shots that I took, I hit something metal. So I figured Shorty Bronson said, "Well, you hit one of this."
The submarines.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I got a picture of submarine.
Well,
Picture of them.
well, tell us what you did besides, what did you call that? The Mounted Coastal Patrol. You had the horses then in California.
We had them.
And the people in that area became very fascinated with your horses.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
So you actually showed them in a parade in San Francisco,
Mm-hmm.
and you actually showed off Big Cane at a country club.
Yep, Pogadip
Tell about that, Dad.
Country Club.
Yes.
The rascals, rich people.
Uh-huh. And their problem is you had the best horse of show.
Yeah, then they invited us to participate in that.
The cavalry. Mm-hmm.
But they thought these cavalry horses, they would be some old clippity-clop type thing. But such was not the case.
No.
Or one certain horse that we knew of. He blended in very, very well.
You're talking about Big Cane.
Yeah.
Tell about jumping the tables.
Well, they said we're going to have a horse show. Some of it's going to be inside, some of it's going to be outside. And we went now, and some of it was cross country. And the Hoot undercover,
Uh-huh.
he was a,
From Cincinnati.
yeah. He showed wrong colors to me. And he didn't do anything to further the horse, because his horse wouldn't do too much of anything. Wasn't over energetic, and well, wouldn't show any initiative as far as jumping.
Well, tell us what your horse did.
Well, I'll get to him. Yeah, I know there's some I'd have to look at something in between that exonerated our horses.
Well, tell about Big Cane jumping the table, the set tables.
The tables were set.
With tablecloth,
Tablecloth, yeah. Candles,
china and glassware,
yeah.
the whole shebang.
The whole works. And the table was probably about,
Was there more than one table?
oh yeah.
So he jumped over one table and then another table?
I only had to jump one, so.
Uh-huh.
And it was about 12 foot, I guess, 12 foot long.
Uh-huh.
And had all kinds of chairs on it.
Wow.
And their horse would jump. And they had some pretty good jumpers. But I don't think much of the horsemanship. But anyway, they weren't very successful in jumping the table that was set. And finally, somebody said, "Hey, Schweitzer, get your horse over that jump. That's right up your alley."
Uh-huh.
It turned out it was up my alley, because I turned and Big Cane around, take a loop and circle. Okay, Big Cane, go. And after that, I didn't have to say anything to him or
You
do
loved
anything.
it.
And
You loved to show
he
off.
popped right off the bat.
Uh-huh.
He jumped very well on the table, you see. And see, the table was about this high, I guess.
Wow.
But it was out, outside.
Uh-huh.
And they had, I do recall they put some stuff underneath, make it even.
Mm-hmm.
So we finally got it leveled, so it was leveled. And we got the table straightened out to the point where it could be rideable. Then it was apparently my turn, I guess, was to jump. So I popped, as we said then, we popped him over the jump. And seemed like and he was enjoying it, said, can I have some more of that? And, but we gave him some freedom then, turned him loose.
Mhm.
But that same afternoon, the thing, I don't think this is very well cataloged in there. That episode there with the table, he jumped clean. Everything on the table was
Untouched.
untouched.
Mhm.
And
So, of course, he did well in the show completely and should have received a blue ribbon.
no,
Okay.
We finished this table episode business, and we came out pretty doggone good, and everybody cheered that.
You were making an impression.
Yeah, we made a big impression on with that horse. 'Cause then, oh, for crying out loud. They had some open class, hunters and jumpers class, they call it.
Oh, uh-huh.
And that being the case, that you had to catalog your horse, hunter, jumper, show horse, or whatever. And one or two horses popped over. Oh, and the jumps were all about 3.5, 4 foot. That's about all of it.
Oh, your horse could jump 5 something?
Oh yeah, 5'9".
Yeah.
But he was on a nice smooth surface there.
Mhm.
And he popped over. I shouldn't say popped over. But that's the way we refer to him getting over the jump. We popped him over that jump. But the first jump, as I recall this, and there was a lot of hanky-panky, I think, with those people out there. They wanted their horse to show good.
Mhm.
And I had a horse that I knew doing right well. He was going to look real good anyway. So I popped him over the fence, about a 4-foot fence.
Mhm.
I'll call it a fence. And maybe part of it was the table or something that's like it. Well, he jumped the first one, and I circled, go slow and easy, and slow him down to a walk. And the horse gave me the signal that, hey, come on, let's get going. So, pointed him in the right direction, and he popped himself over the jump.
Oh.
and then about 4'3" tall.
So he didn't even pay any attention to you being on his back.
Hmm?
He didn't pay any attention to you being on his back.
Oh no.
He was instinctual
He was-
for him to
Yeah, he was having his,
show off.
yeah. But he popped over the jumps. But the final analysis, he jumped, I would say, about 4 or 5 jumps, circling around. Now, when he gets right over there, you get him straightened out to come around and now jump over the jumps. And Big King popped himself over the.
Mhm.
And each time he jumped it, they raised the jump about 6 inches.
Uh-huh.
So we had to go pretty close to about 5 foot, I guess. that was enough. Because see, the things, it was still, you know, I remember the remnant of the table set,
Mhm.
table setting. Like a horse coming in, jump over all of this dumb junk on that
Mhm.
table. But he would pop himself over it.
Easily.
Yeah,
Mhm. So it was obvious he was the best horse there.
he was the best horse.
Mhm.
And all I had to do was just slap him on the neck. And he said, that's what I want to hear.
Well, even though he wasn't appreciated there, he became a celebrity, and they asked you to actually jump a Jeep
Mhm.
for publicity purposes.
Yeah, this Ford Ord wanted that picture.
And you had that on May the 2nd.
May 2nd,
May the 2nd.
it was somewhere around.
And then you recorded that a month after that. Then the Coast Guard came and took your horses away,
Yeah,
and you weren't ever to see Big Cane again.
yeah. Well, I think I should have shot him.
When they took the horses,
Yeah.
you were out on desert maneuvers.
By that time, it was mix, mock, stall. Some of the outfit was already on their way to the desert maneuvers,
Uh-huh.
and I went later on.
So you just came home and found out that the stables were empty.
Yeah, for that morning, I knew it was going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't too happy about the way it happened. I wanted that horse to, wherever he went.
So what happened to the men after they graduated from their training at Fort Ord? They were in the military, obviously, during wartime, so most of them were shipped overseas?
Most of them were shipped overseas right off the bat, and they needed people to retain themselves out there and had people training people. And I fell in that category.
So after that, you went to Fort Riley, Kansas. And
Yeah,
you were in officer's training.
officers,
And let's see, you spoke with someone about wanting to be involved with the horses.
one, yeah, oh yeah, what did I say?
I forgot who you talked with.
That was just a conversation with the,
It was one of your commanding officers you spoke with. Guess we've covered a lot of territory. Colonel Mershon?
Mershon,
Yes, your commandant.
yeah. Mhm.
And he was a horseman.
He was a horseman, but he did like too much rough stuff. He did not play polo, did not jump horses over excessive heights. And he felt good about the thing, just the way it was, but he felt especially good about the Big Cane, because he could jump. You turn the page there.
Well, he was out at Fort Riley, wasn't he? Colonel Mershon.
Mershon, yeah, that came later.
Well, we're talking about later now. When you were, right before you came, the 7th, was it 7th Regiment? Had been stationed at Fort Riley, and then they were sent over to the Pacific.
Oh, that was,
But what's interesting about that is the 7th Cavalry was actually George Custer's.
that's right,
Yeah.
I wanted so badly to go to George Custer's outfit.
Uh,
I
you only
really-
missed it by 100.
Yeah.
So you mentioned to Colonel Michon that evidently he knew about Big Cane and that you wanted
Yeah,
to be in the horse cavalry, so that when you graduated from officers training, he did actually put you into the horse cavalry
yeah.
again,
Mhm.
which looks very distinctive,
Now, there's a
distinguished
picture,
in,
somewhere in here. You know, some of these names, you sort of kick them around real
Mhm.
fast. Here's a non-horseman.
this picture. It's easier to do it this way.
That's Walter Jennings.
And he was one of your commanding officers.
He was my commanding officer.
Uh-huh.
Most of the time, he was a nasty old SB.
Well, what did you do when you were acting as an instructor out at Fort Riley?
At that time,
Yes.
well, we almost daily, took the horse down to the ocean and got him all wet, so that,
Now we're talking about Fort Riley,
oh,
Kansas.
Fort Riley.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Well, you were an officer out.
Yeah, I was commissioned by that time.
Mm-hmm. I know that you did some legal work. You
Oh,
taught men how to shoot guns,
yes,
but you also said that you had to keep yourself and the horses in condition
yeah.
out of Fort Riley, and once a month. Part of that conditioning was to ride the hounds,
Ride to the,
steeplechase.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
to the hound, ride to the hound.
And you were still jumping horses and polo.
Both,
Yeah.
had both of them.
So you were fortunate to be able to
Yeah,
continue
and
that.
that's where I met a very fine gentleman. And here he is right there. Now, what's his name?
Hiram Tuttle.
No.
No? Oh.
No.
Jonathan Wainwright.
Jonathan.
Tell this story, Dad.
Wainwright. He is the guy who was captured by the Japs on the Corregidor
In the Philippines.
in the Philippines.
And he actually took over, what's his name now?
Yeah.
Let's see, I know you wrote about this.
You know, the funny thing too, here, Jonathan Wainwright, look, he's, oh golly, he's about 7 foot tall.
Oh,
And he was the kindest, gentlest man you'd ever meet. I'm surprised he stayed in the cavalry because you'd had to shoot a gun.
well, you said it was MacArthur. He took over MacArthur's position in the Philippines. And then he was captured and became a prisoner of war. So then when he finally returned to Fort Riley,
He was really browbeaten because remember, for
very
about
fragile, sure.
4 months, he was a captive. And he had not too much to eat, not the right kind of food.
Sure.
No medical attention. And finally, when he was the 1st Cavalry Division, he will forever remember the 1st Cavalry Division because they rescued him. He was, at that time, in a cage.
Oh,
And they butchered up a couple of jobs bad.
oh.
Because everybody loved him.
So one day you were in the East Hall and you were riding your polo pony, and then this man approached you. Tell that story.
Oh, well, we had part of the conditioning of the horse was exercising, keeping the horse in good condition for sudden stops and sudden goes, and he was then placed in that position there, and I think of that. If I could interject this, I thought there. Now here is General I.D. White.
Mm-hmm.
He is one of, who's the wild man?
I don't know.
You know.
Go back to talking about when you were playing polo
Oh yes,
and Jonathan Wainwright walks up to you.
yeah. Well, there's the Wainwright, the gates. There's the gate right there. And we had our team about right here. And we thought we'd give the horses a breather from the polo game. But he just walked right up to us, and then maybe I said, the guy, he's coming right at me.
Uh-huh.
When
And you knew who he was?
I did then.
Mhm.
No, everybody was thrilled to death that we, the cavalry, rescued him. But when I say we, the cavalry,
Mhm.
107th Cavalry.
Uh-huh.
And he walked right up to me and said, Lieutenant, that horse you're riding, that pony, I used to ride him when I was out there. And I'd sure love to ride him some more now. Would you mind if I did mount him? By this time, it really sunk into me that was Wainwright, Jonathan Wainwright.
And you were mounting his pony.
Yeah, that was his polo pony.
Oh. So what did you do?
Oh, I got off
Jumped off the horse.
jumped off the horse and said, I am honored. I remember using this word, sir, I'm honored that you would take my horse for exercise.
And he wanted to just feel what it was like to be back in the saddle.
Yeah, he did.
Ah.
And from then on, I would ride with him about every day.
Oh, you would?
Oh, yeah, we both, like sort of in the pool. I was pretty much my own boss. He obviously was his own boss till
Uh-huh.
he get us straightened out. I remember that so well.
And you used to ride with Hiram Tuttle.
Yeah, I would ride with him, but I would not ride his horses. But I always got a kick out of it. And I did put this
Are you still taping?
Yep.
Okay. Because we got one more story. What did Hiram Tuttle say to you, Dad?
He was sort of giving me hell.
For your jumping, huh?
Yeah, for jumping.
What did he want you to do?
Dressage. And that, as
I think you say in here,
yeah, can you find that?
if you wanted to amount to anything, you'd take his advice.
You'll never amount to much.
Oh. Is there any other story that you'd like to talk about, Dad?
Not right at the moment now, I don't,
Okay.
one doesn't come.
Well, there's one more story I really like you to share, and that's the one about you thought that you were commissioned to go overseas, and you went back to Fort Ord,
Mhm.
and your two buddies,
Yeah,
here's a picture of them in here. Prince Woodward,
Woodard,
okay, he was first lieutenant, and Captain Helmer Uglum.
Ugla.
Love the
And
names.
I like both of the guys.
And the three of you were going to go overseas. However, the two of them left with your luggage. And they told you you couldn't go because you had more than 110 points.
110 points, yeah.
Yeah. So you hated to leave it there, so you decided to go into reserves for so many years after that.
Yeah, that's why I got tangled up that reserve bit.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So you returned to civilian life and hardly ever rode a horse again.
you know what? As a civilian, I never did.
I know. I miss that too.
But I remember that Big Ken was already gone by that time.
Yes. Well, we're trying to find out what happened to him.
Well, he went to, what's the name of it?
Stanford.
Stanford University. Mhm. And they heard about the horse. They liked it. Everybody wanted the horse that jumped was the Jeep. And that was good for my ego.
Mm-hmm.
By that time, it's pretty well been knocked around.
Oh. Well, we're grateful that you've been a good husband and a wonderful father. And I know that you spent all your years trying to provide all the good stuff for us. But one good thing that you've provided are these wonderful memories. And we're so glad that not only are they in black and white, but now live on video. So
Yeah.
thanks for doing this, Dad.
But that, you know, I would think if we could put this grammatically in order, that I think it'd make a pretty good story.
It is a good story.
Wow.
And I think we did the best we could.
You know?
And there's the picture of Dad jumping the Jeep.